So good evening, and we are so glad that you can join us for a walk through some of Sharon's most scenic and delightful landscape this evening. I'm Holly Nelson, and I'm with the Development and Events Office here at the Hotchkiss Library of Sharon, and I get to moderate this program featuring the Sharon Land Trust. As you may know, our virtual programs cover a very wide array of subjects and interests. There's a couple things that are upcoming in the very near future. So take a look at those, and you can register for any of those on our website, as well as our ongoing book and craft groups and kids programs. We are fortunate here in Sharon to have such a rich array of organizations who focus on supporting different vital aspects of our community. Here at the Hotchkiss Library, we're about books. We're about books and their many cousins and the education that's in all of these different kind of formats. Some of you may know our founding story of how the widow of Benjamin Berkeley Hotchkiss devoted much of her inheritance to providing a library to the town of Sharon for the improvement of its citizens. She was very involved in making sure that the library was just as she envisioned. And because of her strong personality and her heavy pocketbook, she was truly a force of nature. She was Maria Bissell Hotchkiss. Well, tonight we're going to hear from another force, but one that I suspect is a gentler nature, who plays a pivotal role in making sure that the Land Trust is an organization that helps all of our residents also be able to enjoy some of the truly unique aspects of our landscape, to ensure that they will be here for our grandchildren. But rather than being a singular force of nature, she happily works with a team of volunteers and staff. So I'm happy to introduce Maria, not Mariah, Grace, who is the executive director of the Sharon Land Trust. We know there'll be questions, so please send them to us in the chat box during the program, and then afterwards, Gretchen Hockmeister and I will share them with Maria. Okay, trying to think if I forgot anything. Otherwise, take it away, Maria, and we're so happy to have you here.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry to start off by interrupting you. Gretchen had suggested that we suggested people put their screens on full screen if they want to, because there's some really, really fabulous pictures in here. So it'll let you get as good a view as possible. If you're not, that you can adjust that up on the box in the upper right of your screen. Okay. Sorry, Maria, no more interruptions.
That's okay. And the Hotchkiss Library is recording this presentation tonight, so you can, if you miss some things, you'll be able to listen to it later as well. So my name's Maria Grace. I'm the executive director of the Sharon Land Trust, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of Sharon Land Trust public preserves and trails. You'll probably notice that the first slide is the view from Torrey Hill on Route 41 between Sharon and Lakeville. It really sort of captures the beauty of the area and shows Mudge Pond and the Taconics and sometimes the Catskills if you catch it on a clear day. The Sharon Land Trust was established in 1982 by a group of citizens concerned with development and preserving the rural heritage of our town. They gained momentum and really started protecting property and securing conservation easements in the late 1990s. We currently own almost 1,500 acres of property, and we hold easements on almost 1,800 acres throughout the town. We have 9 public preserves scattered throughout the town of Sharon, and Skiff Mountain Preserve down here in the southern part is also in Kent, Connecticut. There's a total of 1,400 acres open for passive recreation from dawn to dusk, and we have over 20 miles of hiking trails. We just have some rules of the trail, some sort of housekeeping that we always would like to review when people visit our preserves. Our preserves are open from dawn to dusk. We ask that dogs are kept on a leash and that you clean up after your pet. If you carry it in, we ask you to carry it out. We ask you to respect private property and to stay on our trails. Fires and camping are not permitted. There's no motorized vehicles. Hunting is by permission and permit only. We ask people to be wildlife aware. That includes, our preserves are wild. They're home to lots of different kinds of animals and plants. Bears, snakes, ticks, insects, and so we just ask you to be prepared for any of those potential wildlife encounters that you may come across. All of our preserves have street addresses and they're all on Google Maps. You can find them easily if you just type in the street address. This is also important in case of an emergency. So we have an emergency management plan. We've shared it with the town. And so if something happens and there is an emergency, hopefully we can get you help quickly, as long as you know the street address. And most of our trails, almost all of our trails, we utilize white trail blazes. There's one exception to that rule that I'll talk about at the end. These trail blazes, some have words on them, some have no words, but they're all white, and they all lead you on the trails throughout the preserves. So the first preserve that I'm going to talk about is our Twin Oaks Preserve. It's on Mudgetown Road. It was protected in 1998. It's named after a pair of oak trees that had been planted as saplings during the Revolutionary War. These two oak trees fell within a year of each other, beginning in 2012. The trust, along with community support, planted 2 new oak tree saplings in 2016. The Twin Oaks Preserve is 87 acres. It includes both this farm field that's on the western side of Mudgetown Road. It also includes this wetland area across the way. And this wetland area drains directly into Mudge Pond. There's a 1-mile perimeter walking trail that's been established, and it's mowed throughout the growing season. The beautiful Twin Oak gates grace the entrance to the Twin Oaks Preserve. These gates were designed and crafted by local artist Brenda Hall with wood that was from the fallen Twin Oaks, and Millbrook Garden Club graciously donated these gates to the trust. They were restored in 2020, and they're going to become the focal point for a garden that's being designed by Sharon Land Trust board member Lyndon Miller. And we're hoping that the garden will be installed this fall. Once you park at the Twin Oaks Preserve, you can walk the perimeter of the field to the top, where there are a couple of benches that invite you to sit and take in the view overlooking looking east out to the Lion Rock Farm and the northern ridge of Red Mountain. And this preserve, the trail at the preserve here, it's easy to moderate in ability. The Benton Hill Preserve was protected in 2017. The trust was granted both an open space and watershed acquisition grant from the state of Connecticut, as well as a federal Highlands grant to protect this 70-acre property. The remaining funds were donated by community members. This is one of the first vistas that motorists can see as they're entering Sharon from New York on Route 343. It's really known for its scenic values and the vista of the farm fields, the wetlands, and the distant hills. The Benton Hill Preserve is mostly forest and woodland, protecting lands that drain into the Weebatuck Creek that you're going to see sort of weaving through here. It's situated between the Sharon Country Club to the east and the Miley Farm to the west. And there are 2 miles of trails at Benton Hill Preserve, with the main loop being a total of 1.5 miles, and it's moderate in ability. The main parking area is on Benton Hill Road, across from Crossfield Drive. And you will park at the parking area, and then you get to take in this beautiful view to the north before you begin your journey into the preserve. Once parked, you would follow the mowed path through the field and then into the woods. If there is no mowed path, then the trail follows the left hedgerow to where it enters the woods. This is a fairly young forest, as this land was once all farmland. You will travel a short way through the woods, crossing a beautiful stream, and then you'll come to an intersection. You can choose to go left and follow a path around a small farm pond, or you can continue straight on the main loop. If you go left around the farm pond, you're going to cross a bridge that was constructed by our student work project volunteers in 2019. The pond loop connects back into the main loop, and you can continue through the woods. There are several benches installed along the main loop trail. The main loop eventually follows the hedgerow of the Sharon Country Club driving range. So you just have to keep your wits about you if you choose to walk across the driving range and continue on a spur trail, or you can just follow the hedgerow and go back into the woods. If you choose to follow the path across the driving range, it will come to a short series of switchbacks that take you out to 343. This will lead you out to 343 just southeast of Paley's Farm Market. There's no parking here on 343 because it's also a farmer access road. So we ask you to park on Benton Hill Road, not here. You will be towed. But once you get to 343, you could go to Paley's and get a snack, and then you turn back and return via the same path to your car. Our next preserve is the Bucksbaum Preserve on Lambert Road. It was protected in 2018. It's 45 acres, and Melva Bucksbaum left this property to the trust in her will.
I'm looking for someone who's a lot worse than me.
So it's 45 acres of field and forest. There is a 1 mile loop trail through the preserve, and part of the trail utilizes Lambert Road. It's easy to moderate in ability with some short hilly sections in the woods, and Lambert Road is a little steep in sections. We ask people to park. There are two entrances to Bucksbaum Preserve, but we ask people to park at the top entrance of the preserve, which is pictured here, because the bottom access is used for farming during the growing season. This is a picture of the bottom parking area, bottom access area. It's important to note that Lambert Road is a seasonal road. It's closed in the winter. So if you choose to walk Bucksbaum in the winter months, then you're going to have to park at the bottom lot, or you can park right at the end of Lambert Road where the plow guys push all the snow. And then you can access through this area. The loop trail goes up and down through the forest, and then it exits out into the farm field. And I was out walking here last week, and the blood route was coming up, and I put this picture here just to remind people to take a look down. So often we look at the view and the far off places, vistas and farmland that are off in the distance, but we can find beauty all around if we just look down. And this blood route was right on the trail. So it's important to look down and see the small, beautiful world around us. The next preserve is the Skiff Mountain Preserve. It's in both Sharon and Kent. It's 200 acres, and it's 4 parcels of land that were formerly owned by the Kent School. It's mostly forested, but just like most of the land around us, it was all agricultural fields at some point. There's also extensive wetlands here. Equestrian use is allowed at the Skiff Mountain Preserve. However, there is limited parking. There's a 1.5-mile loop through the woods. It's important to note that this property is part of the Macedonia forest block, important bird area, which is a forest block of over 20,000 acres. It's been named one of the last great places in the state of Connecticut by the Nature Conservancy. It's an important bird area because it protects core forest that's used by neotropical migrants such as scarlet tanagers, wood thrush, veeries, and a variety of woodland warblers. Lori Doss, who's a professor at Marvelwood School, has done bird mist netting in this area for a decade or more. So the parking area is on Skiff Mountain Road, and there's enough parking for about 2 to 3 cars. Once parked, you'll begin your walk up a short hill to the main loop, which is about a 1/4 mile from the parking area. This is an easy to moderate walk. Skiff Mountain Preserve is also used by the Kent School Equestrian team for training and events. They have about 2 big events during the year. You may notice remnants of the equestrian jumps in the field that you enter on the trail. The trail follows along the edge of this field right here, and then it turns right and back into the forest. So this is not a bear, this is my dog. So, but the trail follows and then turns right and goes back into the forest. Ooh, sorry, hit the wrong way. Extensive wetlands crisscross this property. The trail crosses some streams and there are some wet areas, but the trail continues around and it comes back to sort of that, the trail that leads you back to the parking lot. The Sharon Mountain Preserve is 128 acres composed of 3 properties that were gifted to the trust over a decade by the Lynch family, Kalanoff family, and Frew family. It's 128 acres. The main parking area is on East Street. There are 2 other access points, but there's very limited parking there, and these access points are really utilized by local neighbors that don't have to park to enter the preserve. The Sharon Mountain Preserve is a 1.5-mile loop through the forest, and it circles a beautiful upland wetland. The trail follows along the ridges on either side of the wetland, and then it dips down in elevation right here to where the trail actually crosses the wetland via beautiful Bog Bridge on the north side of the property, right here. But this is a picture of the main parking area, and it holds about 3 cars. Sometimes if we have guided hikes, we call the neighbor, and they're always very generous with letting us use their driveway to park cars. This is a view looking out from the start of the Bog Bridge. And here is the Bog Bridge. It's 100 feet long, and it was constructed completely on site with materials from the forest. And it's just a beautiful spot to stand and listen to the wind and the babbling of the water beneath your feet. The trail then goes back up the ridge of either side of the mountain and then descends to Tickner Road. It follows Tickner Road for a short way until it heads back into the woods. The 107-acre Goodbody Preserve is named for Garrett Goodbody. He was a longtime Sharon Land Trust board member and friend who single-handedly negotiated the purchase of the preserve before passing away a few years later. The land was acquired in 2 parts. We protected the 20-acre Paley field in 2000, and then the following year, we protected 87 acres of forest. The preserve is situated on the southeastern side of Indian Mountain and offers 3 viewpoints, one overlooking the Sharon Valley, the other one overlooking the Millerton Valley, and the third looking out to Mudge Pond. Goodbody is moderate to strenuous in ability as the trail ascends Indian Mountain to its highest elevation of 1,095 feet at the Mudge Pond view. Parking is on Millerton Road, the parking area is about 0.6 of a mile south of Dakin Road. This is the driveway. There are 4 to 6 cars that can park in the lot. We do have plans to improve the parking area and the driveway entrance. That's hopefully going to happen this year. So the Goodbody Preserve begins at the 20-acre Paley Field. This is high-value farmland and it's still actively farmed. You can follow the trail to the top of the field to get a spectacular view of the Sharon Valley and out to the Catskills on a clear day. We've installed a bench here at the top of the Sharon Valley view for those who just want to take a short walk and have a beautiful place to sit. And just a shout out to our stewardship director, Tim Hunter, and our volunteer, Jake Fricker, who built and installed this bench and all the benches for that matter at the Sharon Land Trust preserves. The trail then enters the wood and begins to ascend via a series of switchbacks. You can take a short spur trail to see the Millerton Valley view, and a bench was installed here at this viewpoint last fall with the help of volunteers. Once in the forest, the trail continues to gain in elevation till it reaches its highest point, 1,095 feet, overlooking Mudge Pond. This is the view that you're going to see when you get there. We're talking about maybe strategically pruning some trees here to improve the view. But the forest is highly intact and it offers multiple habitats for different bird species such as scarlet tanager, eastern wood pewee, and many woodland warbler species. The Goodbody Preserve, as well as the Hamlin Preserve and the Sharon Mountain Preserve, are all enrolled in the old growth forest network. It totals about 475 acres. Research has shown that older forests are more complex. They have greater biodiversity and they store more carbon than younger forests. In our forests in the old growth forest network, we protect them from logging and to the best of our ability from invasion of non-native species. And this will allow the forest to grow and to eventually harbor trees that are in various ages, from saplings all the way up to 800-year-old monarchs. You will descend from the top of the Goodbody Preserve and wind your way down on the eastern side of Indian Mountain before you exit the woods and the Paley Field about 200 yards east from where you entered. And just a shout out to Nick Winburn, who's been our seasonal land steward for the last 3 summers. And we are excited because he's coming back again this year. We anticipate the Goodbody Preserve is just the first in a series of projects to protect more land on Indian Mountain. We've already received a grant from the state of Connecticut to preserve the Vaughan On Farm, which is 168 acres of field and forest adjacent to the Goodbody Preserve. Here's the Goodbody Preserve right here, and we'll be able to protect this piece of property in the future because of state funding. By protecting the land on Indian Mountain, we'll help to protect habitat connectivity on a regional level, will help to mitigate and adapt to a changing climate, as well as provide public access. I'm now going to talk about our Red Mountain Trail system. The northern part of the Red Mountain Trail system is part of the Hamlin Preserve. The Hamlin Preserve was protected in 2002. It's 278 acres of field and forest. About 50 acres is farmland, which is still actively farmed. That leaves the remaining 228 acres as forest, and it ranges from the edge of the farm fields east to the upper reaches of Indian Mountain. The current northern end of the Red Mountain Trail system starts at the Hamlin Preserve, and the parking and trailhead are at the end of Stonehouse Road. The Hamlin Trail is about 1.5 miles. It's moderate in ability. Currently, it's an out and back trail, but hopefully this year we're going to create a new loop trail at the Hamlin Preserve that will increase the trail network to over, it will increase the trail network by 1 mile. You will notice on the kiosk right here that we call it the Hamlin Bear Trail. That's because when we were first scouting the trail in the preserve, we noticed that there was a tremendous amount of bear activity. I heard a story that bears ate the entire corn crop one year, so much, destroying it so much that there's no longer corn planted here. But this is a photo taken of one of the black bears this winter that called the Hamlin Preserve home. And one of our volunteers, Stephen Schumacher, has a couple of trail cams up at the Hamlin Preserve, and he captured this black bear on the frozen pond this winter. So you park at Stonehouse Road right here, and the trail follows Old Stonehouse Road past the beautiful fields of Lion Rock Farm to the left, and then it crosses along the back of the Hamlin Preserve fields and into the woods. It crosses over a stream, and then it follows Old Stonehouse Road up and over the mountain. Stonehouse Road is an old woods road. It goes up and over the mountain, actually all the way over to White Hollow Road. And it's really neat to walk on this road that's probably existed for a couple hundred years. The road eventually, it goes up to the top of the ridge line. And you arrive at the top of the ridge, and there's a sign that alerts you to a vernal pool off to the east. And this is where the beginning of the new trail loop, this is where the new trail loop will begin. It's going to start at the vernal pool, wind its way around the pool, and continue over the ridge to the east through some amazing rock outcrops and back around to the western side of Red Mountain. It's going to be a wonderful addition to our trail network if we can just get it finished. We need volunteers to help build this trail. Trail building is a lot of hard work and actually takes a tremendous amount of time and energy. We did a 3-week push earlier this month and got about 25% of the trail started. And we plan to schedule more trail work opportunities throughout the spring and into the summer. And hopefully the trail will be open this fall. So currently, you would reach the top of the ridge and continue along the main loop trail. The trail connects you to the White Brothers Farm easement and eventually to Marymore Preserve. The White Brothers Farm is a 268-acre easement that was purchased by the Sharon Land Trust and Connecticut Farmland Trust in 2 pieces, one in 2010 and one in 2014. We have a trail access agreement with the White Brothers Farm that allows us to connect Hamlin Preserve to the Marymore Preserve. So you can continue to walk this main trail and eventually reach Marymore Preserve. Donated to the Land Trust in 2013, the Marymore Preserve is 181 acres of field and forest on the southwestern side of Red Mountain. It's adjacent to Beardsley Pond, which is the town's water supply. It's the preserve that's closest to the center of town. It's located right on the corner of Route 41 and Williams Road. The upper meadows and the summit area in the northeastern corner provide exceptional views that encompass 3 states and rank among the best viewing position in the Berkshires. The Marymore Preserve has about 3 miles of trails. It's moderate to strenuous in ability. Most of the elevation gain happens at the beginning, straight from the Williams Road parking area. And you walk up along the farm field edge, and you continue gaining in elevation until you reach the lookout. The parking area is located on Williams Road. It's about 50 yards past the intersection of 41. You could just have to look for the cows on the hillside, and the parking area is off to the south. We have plans to increase the size of the parking area this summer or fall. The trail follows the fence line up and to the left. Don't touch the fence because it's electrified. We ask people to not travel through the farm field because we don't want the cows to get out. So we ask you to follow the fence line up the hill and to the left. It continues north into the trail, dips into the forest, and it continues until you reach the lookout 7/10 of a mile from the parking area. The 2 benches have been installed at the Marymore Lookout, and on a clear day, you can see all the way to Mount Greylock, the tallest peak in Massachusetts. The Marymore Preserve is also home to this Connecticut state champion, Chinkapin Oak. It was nominated in 2015 by Tom Zetterstrom. It's 151 inches in circumference. It's 92 feet high with an average spread of 101 feet. It is truly impressive to see it. There is a sign on the main trail that directs you to the Chinkapin Oak. It's a side trail, and it's also the way to the new Cliff Loop Trail. Once you take in the impressiveness of the Chinkapin Oak, you will continue on the path through the field and then into the forest, where you will find the new Cliff Loop Trail. It was newly constructed in 2020. There's beautiful exposed bedrock that creates cliffs and boulders throughout this area of the preserve. It travels through a beautiful ravine. This Cliff Loop Trail creates a 2.5-mile trail at the Marymore Preserve that really takes in all the special spots, past the Chinkapin, along these beautiful rock outcrops and cliffs, and back around to the lookout. The Cliff Loop eventually connects to the main trail at the top of Red Mountain. You can travel north and head to the Hamlin Preserve, or you can travel south and head back to the lookout and the Williams Road parking area. You'll eventually enter the field on the opposite side of the lookout. And this is a view that you see when you get there. Protected in 2020, actually the December 31st, 2020 is when we closed on this property. The Dalton Preserve is our newest public preserve. It's not actually open yet. It's 70 acres of mixed forest and wetland, and it will have almost 4 miles of trails when we welcome visitors in June. There's a 1,400-foot summit, which is going to be a wonderful destination with a remarkable long distant view to the Catskills and over to the Riga Everett Range in Massachusetts. When the Dalton Preserve opens, it will have about 4 miles of trails. There was an extensive trail system on the property by the former owner, Terry Dalton. She's an enthusiastic outdoors woman. All of the trails have been maintained to equestrian standards, and we will welcome equestrian use when the trail is open. The parking area has yet to be installed. We anticipate that happening very soon. Construction is underway. It will be on Westwoods Road 2. And you will park at this parking area, and then it will lead you onto the trails. The trails have been blazed. And this is the first preserve that utilizes multiple colors to mark the trails. The main loop is white, and the side trails are colored depending on what side of the preserve you are on. Red and purple for the western side of the preserve, and blue for the eastern side. Just to note, we installed the trail markers on this preserve when there was about 2 to 3 feet of snow on the ground. And just a shout out to Tim Hunter, Jake Fricker, and Jill Drew, who all helped to blaze the trails at the Dalton Preserve. The blue trail markers indicate that you're on the eastern side of the preserve. The land is part of the headwaters of the Guinea Brook, which is a beautiful trout production stream that drains directly into the Housatonic River. This preserve has some of the most incredible mountain laurels I've ever seen, and I can't wait to take a walk there when they're blooming. We have a guided walk planned for Saturday, June 5th at 10 a.m. It will be a grand opening celebration, and hopefully I've timed it right so that the mountain laurels are blooming. And I invite you to join me. The main loop trail leads to the summit of the preserve, which is 1,414 feet, and it provides magnificent views all the way to the Catskills and to the southern Berkshires. Benches will be installed at the summit of the Dalton Preserve this summer. So those are our 9 public preserves. We have some upcoming hikes that we invite you to attend. The first one's going to be the Dalton Preserve on June 5th and Hamlin Preserve on June 6th. June 5th and 6th is Connecticut Trails Day weekend, so we're offering some hikes then. We're also offering hikes in September as part of the Housatonic Heritage guided programs, and we hope you can join us for one of them. The Sharon Land Trust is small but mighty. We are a mostly volunteer-run organization with 3 part-time staff people. We could not do what we do without the support of numerous volunteers. Our board members, our trail building and maintenance crew, our land monitors are all critical to the success and well-being of our organization. I invite you to volunteer your time. We have something for everyone to do. I invite you to donate to the trust. We are a membership-based nonprofit organization that relies heavily on community support. You can give the gift of land, give the gift of stock. You can remember the trust in the future so that we may continue to protect the rural heritage of Sharon for future generations. We also have a memorial bench program so that you can honor a loved one with a bench and a plaque placed in a special spot on an SLT preserve. Several of these have already been installed at Benton Hill and the Twin Oaks Preserve. I encourage all of you to become more involved, to get outside and take a hike, become a member, give donations of time or money, give donations of land. And I will now open the floor to questions, and thank you so much for coming and hearing about our beautiful, beautiful land.
Maria, thank you. That's a wonderful kind of a whirlwind tour, a little bit like the whirlwind in the photo, but you did a nice job of kind of touching on the highlights of the various preserves. And I can't say enough for how impressive it is to me for a small town with a small organization to have such a really impressive array of both landscapes and access and different kinds of trails. They're really something for anybody who wants to be outside, and really shouldn't we all be. So it's very nice work. It's just really terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know you've always got lots going on, but we really appreciate your taking the time to be able to walk us through all of these. The audience, all of our members of the audience are more than welcome to submit questions via the chat if they want. While that happens, maybe I'll just ask just a couple of quick questions that I keep meaning to ask you. And one of which is I know that the Dalton Preserve is going to be open for equestrian use. And I wondered also about the, drawing a blank, the Skiff Mountain one, because the Kent School Stables uses that. Can people take their horses there also?
Skiff Mountain Preserve is open for equestrian use. The limiting factor is parking. There is very limited parking right now for the Skiff Mountain Preserve. So if you are local to the area, there's no reason why you can't walk your horse over to that preserve, but we are working on improving parking access to allow for equestrian use.
Yeah, because I know that there's room for a couple of cars, but not I don't know.
Not for a horse
trailer
trailer.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately.
Will there at the as the Dalton Preserve is a touch more developed, as you get the parking put in, will there be room, a place to like put a trailer in and perhaps at least, turn it around to unload your horses and then?
Absolutely. I can go back to that slide. You'll notice that it's, a C shape, so it'll be, it'll enable a car to, a truck and a trailer to turn easily. And there'll also be enough parking, not just for, one trailer and truck, but also for hopefully a couple more cars as well.
It's ideal for those of us who never learned to back up a trailer.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
It's essential. Terrific. And we do have a question that's come in from the audience. And this is an interesting one. I hadn't thought about that. And is sustainable foraging permitted? I know that we're now deep in the ramp season, and there's other things. Morel season will be upon us, and there's other things out there are greening up. Is that something that you have a policy on?
We currently don't have a policy for foraging on our preserves, and all I would recommend is to not overuse the resource. That if you are out and you want to pick ramps, please feel free to do so, but we're not looking for please don't commercially forage.
Sure.
It would be for your own private and personal use.
Sure. And that's, the question of the questioners put the word sustainable in, which I think is a good approach in that sort of stuff.
Especially when I'm talking about, ramps, which if you don't sustainably forage for them, you eliminate them from the ecosystem. So
they go by pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's terrific. The other, we're also getting a couple questions about the recording of the presentation, and it will be up on the Hotchkiss Library website in a couple of days. We try to record a lot of our presentations. It'll be on our YouTube channel. So we'd encourage you to share it with friends or come back and watch it again, or whatever, because it'll be up there. Most of our talks do end up there, and it's nice if you couldn't make it, or if you just want to check out a couple aspects of them later on. Another question also is, does the Sharon Land Trust website have information on each of the preserves so we can follow up in this excellent presentation?
Yes, the website has information about all of our preserves. I am going to utilize this presentation to improve some of the components of our website. So we are also working on improving our trail maps and also completing a trail brochure. So everything is in the works, and I'm hopeful that it will be published before the end of the year. So this is just the start of increasing our communications in regard to our public preserves.
Plus, Maria, I've noticed that from most of the public preserves have a downloadable trail map that people can either, if they're old school, they can print and take it with them, or they can at least bring it down on their phone with the trails and the parking places indicated and some basic information on distances and stuff.
Correct. So all of our, you get to the parking area of all of our preserves and there is a trailhead sign there. You can download that trailhead sign before you head out to the preserve so that you have a paper map to use when you get there. We're also looking into some online mapping softwares like Avenza Maps, which will enable you to download a digital copy of the trail map and actually use it on your smartphone as you're walking along.
Terrific. And, I think one of the nice things to note about your trails is that even though they go through some fairly complex landscape, they're not super long. They're a few miles, which means you're never terribly far away from an entry or an exit, and they're generally very well blazed, so you can find your way back if you need to.
Absolutely. Maybe the only exception to that would be in the farthest reaches of the Red Mountain Trail system on Hamlin Preserve or on the northern reaches of Marymore Preserve. But they are exceptionally well built and maintained thanks to our stewardship director, Tim Hunter, and our excellent volunteer corps.
And let me just put a plug in I know you've got some work days coming up, or you've just finished your spring trail cleanup in the next couple of days you have some, but I do some.
We do.
Yeah, I do some trail maintenance over in the South Taconic Trail in New York. And I got caught up with that a few years ago when we were extending the South Taconic Trail by a few miles. And, as you say, it's a lot of work. It's heavy. It's often buggy. You're pulling out blueberries and you're lopping things, and you're sometimes moving little rocks or enormous rocks in a water, in a water course. And it's by the end of the day, you're usually so tired you almost can't stop at the nearest tavern for a refreshing beverage. And it's really just more fun than you can really shake a stick at. It's just really a nice way to spend a day in the outdoors with, often starts off with people you don't know, but that doesn't last very long. And so it's just a satisfying thing to get to do. And that way also when you're later on those trails, you really understand them and you have a sense of having played a role in making either that trail or other trails better. So I just encourage people to get on the work cruise because it's really a hoot. A whole lot better than staying home and cleaning your house. Let me just put it that way.
A whole lot better.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're going to find. So, you're sitting at the top of the Goodbody Preserve, taking a drink of water and sitting quietly, and a black bear walks past you, or you catch glimpses of, scarlet tanagers in the trees and different warblers calling. It's a really special way to spend the day and get exercise along the way.
Sure. And we just gotten a really interesting question that touches on the land trust that says, is the land trust an endowed organization, or is it a one parcel at a time organization? Which I think is that's a good question. How you approach each, when you find the right parcel or the right parcel finds you organize the efforts to bring it into your portfolio, so to speak. Am I?
Correct.
Can you tell us shortly about that?
We have key lands that we target from time to time. We have sort of criteria, exceptional wildlife habitat, scenic and view sheds. But a lot of the time it happens when a landowner contacts the land trust. They want to protect their property. They need to potentially they might want to donate their land to the land trust or donate an easement to the land trust. Very often, as is the case with someone like Terry Dalton and with the Vaughn On Farm, they are eager to protect it in perpetuity. They don't have the resources to be able to donate that property, so they approach the land trust, and we work to apply for funding. Connecticut has an open space and watershed acquisitions program that towns and nonprofits can apply to every year for funding. That funding does dry up from time to time, especially right now. So we've written grants to the Connecticut Open Space and Watershed Acquisition Program. We will receive that grant. For example, we've received that funding to protect the 168-acre Vaughn On Farm. And that is only about 30 to 40% of the asking price of the negotiated contract price. We then apply to the federal government for Highlands funding if that land falls within the Highlands, which a lot of the land in Sharon does. And that funding, if it comes through, gets us about 75% of the way there. And then the trust needs to raise the remaining funds. And we'll go to community members, possibly different private foundations and grantors. And we hope to raise that money, through community support. So it is really a parcel by parcel basis.
Sure. And it's all part of probably a grand scheme, but also a little, not scheme and a grand vision, but also a little bit opportunistic when people approach you or things come on the market that you will enhance what you already have.
Absolutely. So being able to protect Indian Mountain that you can see in this picture is really the vision, one of the visions of the land trust, that we can protect this beautiful hillside that straddles two watersheds into Indian Lake and into Mudge Pond, and really to protect that viewshed leaving town to the north.
Sure. So if people want to come and join some of your guided hikes, you have the ones, as you say, coming up in June.
Mm-hmm.
How's the best way to do that?
All they need to do is contact me at the office. They can email me, they can call me, and let me know which hikes they're interested in signing up for. There will be a registration cap with, due to the ongoing pandemic. But if there is a tremendous amount of interest, we can add another hike leader, or we can add another day so that we can accommodate everyone.
Sure. And you've done these, this is something you do most years, your guided hikes.
Yeah, I've been leading guided hikes for the last couple of years. It's usually either myself or Tim Hunter who will lead the hikes. I walk our trails often, as does Tim. Wonderful opportunity to share these special places with people.
Sure. And I'm assuming that because of the aforementioned pandemic, that you've seen a lot more members of the public out enjoying your trails. You've seen an uptick in people being outside because it's such a nice and safe place to go, except for the bears and the ticks.
Absolutely. We have seen a tremendous increase in trail use over the last year. And we're hoping that, we see continued use of our properties. I encourage people to get out and to visit Marymore and to visit Goodbody Preserve. They're probably our two most highly used preserves. But I also encourage you to get out into the back roads of Sharon and to visit Skiff Mountain or Sharon Mountain Preserve as well, because they're just as special and not as highly used. So if you're like me, I like to get out on the trail and not see anyone. And most of the time that's possible in this area with all the access we have to open space in the region.
One more audience question, and it's that, can you bring your dog on the organized hikes? I know you can have your dog on a leash in general, but on the organized hikes, the guided hikes?
I would say, I would encourage people to leave their dogs at home for the guided hikes. I'm going to be leaving my dog at home for the guided hikes, just because it just creates there might be somebody on the guided hike who's not comfortable with dogs. There might be dogs who don't get along with one another. So if it's at all possible to leave your dog at home, I would encourage you to do so. And you can come back another day and walk it there.
Sure, good approach. All right, are there any more questions or thoughts on all this information? I know if you're like me, you can't wait to, well, some of us have to work tomorrow, but you know, there's a weekend coming and all those great maps we could just download from the website. So
It's going to be a beautiful weekend.
any parting thoughts for us, Maria?
I just hope that people get out, take a hike, and enjoy the beauty of the northwest corner of Connecticut. And I also encourage anyone, if you have questions, if you need guidance or advice, please reach out to me at the office. Email's probably best. I'm not always in the office, but I'm always available via email. I do work part-time. All of our staff works part-time, but I'm generally in the office Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays all day. But email is best.
We will send out a follow-up to everybody who attended with your particulars, with the website and email, all that kind of stuff. So that'll make that part easier. All right, well, thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank you for the good questions and the deep interest, and thanking you in advance for going out and making those trails on the Sharon Land Trust preserves a little firmer with your own feet. And thank you, Maria, for all the time and effort for you know, getting this terrific presentation together. So we hope you can all join us. We have again, we have a couple more things coming up. We have a wonderful, interesting thing on Sunday afternoon with Jürgen Kalva, who is lives in Sharon, but he's also a correspondent for German public radio, and he's got a really unusual talk about the movie Patton and its connection to the area. So I urge you to tune into that. All right, thank you. And other than that, I will say good night from the Hotchkiss Library of Sharon. We look forward to seeing you again.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. It was terrific.
All right. Take care, everyone.